Hey y'all, welcome back to the Dancing Italian Urban Farm. Welcome if you're new. My name is Leslie, and today we're diving into something that's both practical and fascinating: the history of pressure canning. If you've ever enjoyed a jar of home canned green beans, chili, or even meat stew, you've benefited from over a century of scientific discovery, trial and error, and a whole lot of innovation. Canning might seem simple today, but the story behind how we got from spoiled food to safe, shelf-stable meals is one of invention, persistence, and even wartime necessity. So let's take a journey back in time and trace how pressure canning came to be. Before we talk about pressure canning, we have to start with canning itself. The concept goes all the way back to the late 1700s in France. Napoleon Bonaparte was leading military campaigns across Europe, and he famously declared that an army marches on its stomach. He needed a way to feed his soldiers on long campaigns without food spoiling. So, in 1795, Napoleon's government offered a cash prize to anyone who could invent a reliable food preservation method. After years of experimenting, a French chef and confectioner named Nicolas Appert discovered that food could be preserved by sealing it in a glass bottle and heating it in boiling water. Appert published his methods in 1810, and while he didn't fully understand why it worked, his process became the foundation for modern canning. The scientific explanation, killing microbes through heat and sealing food from recontamination, came later thanks to Louis Pasteur's discoveries about germs in the mid-1800s. At first, food was canned in glass jars, but glass was heavy, fragile, and not ideal for shipping. Around the same time, in 1810, English inventor Peter Durand patented the use of tin-coated iron cans. These cans were sturdier, easier to transport, and quickly became the preferred choice for armies and navies. However, the early cans were thick and had to be opened with hammer and chisel. It wasn't until decades later that the can opener was invented. Still, these developments laid the groundwork for what we now think of as canned food, foods preserved safely for long periods. Here's the catch, though. Not all foods are the same when it comes to canning. Fruits, jams, and pickles, foods high in acid, can be safely canned in boiling water because the acidity prevents the growth of dangerous bacteria. But vegetables, meats, beans, and soups? Well, these are low-acid foods, and that's where the problem lies. A boiling water bath only reaches 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius. But that's not enough heat to kill the dreaded Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria that causes the deadly illness known as botulism. Botulism spores can survive normal boiling, and if they're sealed in an airtight jar, they can grow and produce a dangerous toxin. This meant that for a long time, people tried to can low-acid foods with boiling water, and sometimes the results were tragic. The solution would come with higher heat under pressure. Enter the pressure canner. The story of pressure canning begins with the invention of the pressure cooker. As early as 1679, a French physicist named Denis Papin invented what he called the steam digester, an early pressure cooker. His device used steam pressure to raise the boiling point of water, allowing food to cook faster. Fast forward to the late 1800s and early 1900s, scientists and home economists began to apply the same principle to canning. By using pressure, water could reach 240 degrees Fahrenheit or 116 degrees Celsius, or even higher, hot enough to destroy botulism spores and make low-acid foods safe. These early pressure canners were often bulky, heavy cast iron kettles with clamps and weights. They weren't exactly kitchen-friendly. but they worked. As home canning became more popular in the early 20th century, so did cases of botulism. Something had to be done. In 1917, the United States Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, published the first canning recommendations that specifically addressed the dangers of botulism. They emphasized the need for pressure canning when dealing with low-acid foods. This was a turning point. For the first time, the government was providing science-based, safety-tested guidelines. These standards formed the foundation of modern home canning practices. Now, World War I and especially World War II saw an explosion in home canning. With food rationing, shortages, and the need to support troops overseas, governments encouraged families to grow victory gardens and preserve their own produce. Pressure canners became more common, though they were still big, heavy, and sometimes intimidating. Communities even set up canning centers where families could bring their produce and use large shared pressure canners under supervision. After the wars, home canning remained popular practice. Pressure canners began to be manufactured in lighter materials like aluminum, making them more practical for household use. By the 1950s and 60s, pressure canners had safety valves, better gaskets, and more reliable gauges. Over time, they became easier and safer to use. The USDA and universities continued to test recipes and refine guidelines, ensuring that home canners could preserve food without fear of botulism. Today, pressure canners are lightweight, come in a variety of sizes, and are an essential tool for anyone wanting to preserve low-acid foods safely at home. Today, pressure canning is seeing a resurgence. Many people are returning to gardening, homesteading, and traditional skills, and pressure canning is a vital part of that lifestyle. Modern pressure canners are safer than ever, and thanks to ongoing research, we now have tested recipes, accurate pressure gauges, and clear guidelines to keep our food safe. Social media, YouTube, and online communities are also helping to keep the tradition alive, teaching new generations how to safely can at home. So, from Napoleon's challenge to Nicolas Appert, from heavy cast iron steam digesters to sleek modern pressure canners, the history of pressure canning is really the history of food security, science, and innovation. It's a reminder that preserving food safely wasn't always as simple as following a recipe. It took centuries of discovery and sometimes even tragedy to learn the importance of pressure and temperature. And now, every time you open a jar of home-canned beans or chicken soup, you are part of that history. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history of pressure canning. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave any comments or questions you have for me in the comment section, and share it with others who love history and homesteading. And let me know in the comments, do you pressure can at home, or is it something you'd like to learn?